So, this is Deadside. Something feels different. Since it hit early access in April 2020, Deadside has experienced its fair share of ups and downs. Player base drops, slow development, funding challenges, and plenty of criticism about whether it would ever see those long-awaited content drops. Players have had a lot of opinions along the way, some asking for vehicles, others wanting deeper survival mechanics, while part of the player base has called for better PvP and AI. It's been a tug-of-war between casual players and the hardcore crowd, but recently, something seems to have shifted. Has Deadside finally found those imaginary lines that define its clear vision and where it's headed? Today, we're taking a close look at Deadside's journey, exploring where it stumbled, what started the shift, and if Deadside is, well, dead. So let's go all the way back to the beginning of April 2020. Deadside launched with an impressive peak of 9,600 concurrent players, drawn in by its promise of hardcore survival experience, realistic weapons, and a vast immersive open world with beautifully crafted lighting that added depth and atmosphere to the environment. Players could explore dense forests, abandoned towns, and expansive landscapes that truly felt immersive. The game also offered a dynamic mix of PvE and PvP mechanics, along with base building and base raiding, allowing players to survive in a hostile world while competing against others. But despite this strong start, players soon noticed a lack of substantial content, and demands for more started rolling in. What's notable, however, is that Deadside's launch peak of 9,573 players was impressive for an indie title. But when compared to other games in its survival genre, like Scum, which peaked at 68,000, and DayZ, which consistently topped at 45,000, it became clear that Deadside had a smaller initial following. Many players also felt that Deadside didn't fully deliver on its hardcore survival promises, as it lacked some of the deeper mechanics they were hoping for. Despite these shortcomings, it still managed to capture attention with its mix of PvP and survival elements. But the question remained, was it enough to sustain the initial excitement? By May 2020, player numbers had already started to dip. The developers responded by releasing a roadmap outlining plans for improvements in server stability and in-game economy. However, without any new major content or game-changing features, player counts continued to decline, dropping below 1,200 by June. By August, the team had made some quality of life improvements, but without any major additions players wanted, like vehicles or survival systems, the community remained frustrated. Even so, feedback remained steady, with players hoping for large-scale updates that would bring depth to Deadside survival elements and make the game more engaging. 8 months passed by, update 0.2.8, which brought new settlements, rivers, and long-requested fast travel features. This allowed players to move between safe zones, making the map traversal much easier. This update saw a brief increase in player activity, but without more extensive features, some players felt it wasn't enough to keep them engaged in the long term. In May, it brought more quality of life features and expanded fast travel. This update also teased new AI elements like wolves, which are expected to add a fresh challenge in the survival environment. Though these updates showed promise, the player base remained relatively stagnant, with peak around 800 players. In September 2021, TinyBuild, a video game publisher, acquired Bad Pixel, the developer of Deadside, for up to $17.1 million. The initial payment was $6.5 million, with $4.9 million in cash and $1.6 million in newly issued TinyBuild shares. Additionally, payments up to $10.6 million were to be made over the following 3 years, contingent upon meeting certain financial targets. While this acquisition seemed like a promising boost for Deadside, the pace of development actually slowed down. Rumors circulated that Deadside's funding was being redirected to other tiny build projects, leading to further frustrations within the community. 1 year passes by, and we have Wolves that finally entered the game. Alongside the addition, player counts still remained very low. Throughout the remainder of 2022, Deadside saw a sporadic minor update and improvements, but no changing additions to the gameplay experience. By December, the player base was still hovering between 500 to 600 players on average, with many community members voicing concerns about the direction and pace of development. And then, a new era of Deadside hits. In mid-2023 marked a turning point. Update 0.6 introduced inflatable boats, a fishing mechanic, and new weapons, signaling a fresh direction for the game. The addition of watercraft opened up new ways to navigate the map, and fishing gave players a new survival feature, breathing some life back into the gameplay. This update helped boost player numbers slightly, bringing average counts to around 700 to 800. Although the community was still cautious, wondering if these updates signaled a renewed commitment or just another temporary improvement. A few more months pass by, and we have one of the biggest content updates yet: the city of Kamensk. Kamensk was one of the biggest cities added to the map, bringing dense urban environments that offered a new style of gameplay and exploration. This update revitalized interest in the game, with peak player counts briefly returning above 1,000, as many players felt that Deadside was finally delivering on some of the original promises. Since the start of 2024, Deadside has accelerated its development, and one of the biggest fan requests, ground vehicles, is finally becoming a reality. Internal tests are showing some serious positive results. Public testing has been underway, and while we're not there yet, get ready because they're coming soon. By April, the prone animation was finally introduced, adding another tactical layer to the gameplay. The update also revamped respawn mechanics with the addition of sleeping bags. Along with this, a weapon balance overhaul adjusting recoil and armor damage. They also introduced a new weapon called the AR-4M, which was a more compact and agile version of the standard AR-4. Deadside has made huge strides in its development, with updates rolling out all the way to November 2024. Base building is getting a massive overhaul, with upgrading your base from stick to metal, plus the addition of machines and generators were added. Flags and decorations are also being added to let players personalize their base, and also giving them soft skills to the players. A new bleeding system came into play, adding more depth to combat, fast travel, and an in-game currency using an ATM network function, changing the way we purchase goods. New forging systems, the list is massive. Raiding mechanics, new server options, and while you're playing through all this, you can also accompany yourself to some ambient in-game music as you continue your journey in Deadside. However, it's all still in the works, meaning more exciting features and tweaks are still underway. When Deadside first entered early access, Bad Pixel had limited resources, and much of the initial revenue was used to stabilize servers and improve basic mechanics rather than adding major features. When Tiny Build acquired Bad Pixel in 2021, Deadside became one of the many games in their portfolio, and other high-profile projects like Hello Neighbor seemed to take priority. This left Deadside's development in a slow crawl for time, leading many players to suspect it might be turning into a cash grab. However, the consistent through gradual updates indicated that Bad Pixel was still working to improve Deadside. They continued engaging with players, releasing small content patches, and listening to feedback, which kept the community somewhat hopeful despite the delays. Only in 2023 did Deadside finally begin to deliver, on long-standing community requests, with features like watercrafts, city expansions, and survival mechanics. The recent update directly addresses players' feedback, especially around base building and exploration, showing a new level of commitment and focus in development. Tiny Build's backing appears to be more aligned with making Deadside a more PvP-oriented survival game rather than a project on the back burner. So, to wrap things up here, Deadside's journey literally highlights what early access games can go through, from limited resources, slower expected updates, and a more robust development stage with the help of a publisher. Initially, Deadside seemed to lack direction with delays and limited updates, but recent efforts suggest it's now on a promising path. With Tiny Build support and a remarkably resilient community that has stuck by the game, Deadside has finally found its footing and is finally delivering features players asked for years ago. The question remains, will these updates turn Deadside's player base around for good? Only time will tell. I don't know about you guys, but I'm definitely going to have an absolute blast getting into some PvP engagements, raiding bases, and putting these new survival mechanics to the test. Definitely can't wait to jump in one of the vehicles and jump some dunes, try to see if I can launch over houses and break the game in my own little ways. But if you guys been waiting for Deadside to become the game it set out to be, once this next update hits, might be the perfect time to jump back in and experience its evolution firsthand. And with all that said, I'll definitely keep you guys updated on the development of Deadside. And until next time, don't forget to get out there and touch some grass.